play the game while you listen.
What's going on here?
But this ragtag crew of adventurers is covering the problems of the average player.
Where should I begin?
Discussing the homebrews, modules, and the latest content for all things D&D.
What in God's holy name are you blathering about?
It's Chef Bolg and the Pirate Captain's recipes for everything.
What you're feeling is so normal and perfectly natural.
With your host, the Pirate Captain.
Everybody loves me, and I don't know why. I'm an asshole. I really am. The Pirate Captain is a dick.
Chef Bolg.
Let me take a couple steps back so I can, really get this point across.
It's bullshit!
And Loke the Bard.
Instead of making a deal with Cthulhu or, a greater devil, you found an imp who was willing to give you dark vision in exchange for a gallon of blood.
With a little mayhem, mischief, and a bit of bardic charisma, it's time for the show.
That's right. We're back at it again, boys and girls and well, I was going to say children of all ages, but I'm not on this boat. Not on this boat. And you can't fool me with that one twice there, Bolg. This is Chef Bolg and the Pirate Captain's recipes for everything. I am the titular Pirate Captain. As always, with me, my bestest buddy Bolg.
That's me.
Logan the Bird. And, of course, Mr. Producer.
Yeah.
We are a D&D podcast. We sometimes venture off into different pop culture items. Make sure you're checking that out on every other Friday. I will not be here. I have to go play G.I. Joe this upcoming weekend. So expect that to be there. But other than that, we are, like I said, a D&D podcast. Hopefully you're enjoying this. Going to go right into the topics today. First one, we're going to be talking. I'm going to let Logue take this one off because it was his video. And I'm going to be honest. I don't take out.
Hey, look, I don't.
Oh, look.
Wizards of the Coast channel's video.
Well, I mean, you're the one who found it. You sent it to me, and you're like, here, you should watch this. And then you forgot that my name is the Pirate Captain, and not you. So I'm the captain of the ship, and I wasn't going to watch it. In fact, I just got too busy. That's 100% the reason I didn't watch it. But you're telling me, explain the concept, and then I can tell you why I think it's either good or bad.
When I sent the video, I said, this is the first of these videos from this channel that they actually do a good job of presenting it and making me want to buy a Wizards product. And we're talking about their how it began, how Dungeons and Dragons started video on the Dungeons and Dragons official Wizards of the Coast YouTube channel. We'll put a link in the comments later so that anybody else who wants to go back and watch it. But it is not the same person. This is what's Jason's last name?
I don't know. Something probably to do along the lines of Jeremy Crawford's, butt muffin.
It's not Jeremy Crawford. That's the point. It's Todd Kendrick is still doing the interview, but it's I'm stalling because instead of leaving his name on the screen, Jason Ternadro. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Say that 5 times fast.
But he's another senior designer over, and he seems to be more of one of the old school designers than one of the newer.
I gotta tell you what's funny is while we're talking about designers and Jeremy Crawford, all this. So obviously, I work in the radio world and I do a lot of production stuff. All the stuff I do for this, I've actually added YouTube producer to my titles and stuff like that on LinkedIn. And Hasbro, they were like, hey, this job is right up your alley. And it was Hasbro producer. I was like, they don't want me anywhere near that building. Trust me. I think they finally got my Pirate Captain certificates of achievement.
You had the opportunity to make some real change.
I don't think I could have made any real change over there because they wouldn't have listened to me. I wouldn't have made it through the hiring practice. They were like, isn't that you calling out Jeremy Crawford? Absolutely. Do you not feel bad about this at all?
Gaslighting?
Nope.
Yeah.
You said you're going to send him a toilet paper certificate?
Is that your handwriting? Yeah, it actually is. I didn't think that would actually fall. Yeah. So
couldn't even give him the 2-ply.
You're not worth the 2-ply.
Did you steal this from our bathroom?
Wrote it on my way up, actually. But I saw that, so I throw that in there while we're talking about it. But I think they could actually make a pretty good, decent amount of money by just re-releasing all these older editions and probably get away from this new edition because we're going to get into the fiasco that is that coming up. But I think you could just go in and re-release the first, second, third, and fourth edition and actually make a decent bit. There are fans of each of those eras of D&D. Like, I'm a big fan of 3.5. Mr. Producer loves 4. Logue just loves playing with himself. Bolg likes 2. You know. It's
sorry, British viewers. I just realized what I did. I am so sorry.
V for victory, baby.
I'm not telling you to jog on. I promise.
I'm telling. Hey, no, who cares? It's V for victory, baby. That's where that comes from. The peace sign. It's V for victory.
Yeah, that's fine. That's not.
I don't care. Pack Sam, bro. You're gonna be mad about. If you're gonna be mad about something, and that's what you're gonna choose to be mad about, get over yourself.
Yeah,
it's the same as flipping them off. So.
Yeah. I get flipped off by the meth heads down the road. You don't see me going out there going, get out. No.
Yeah.
But
the one thing, this new book that's coming out in June, the 500-page plus book that they've put together will include everything that was the original publications for Dungeons and Dragons, the original edition. This is prior to Advanced Dungeons and Dragons first edition. Prior to basic D&D, this is the original box set.
So we're seeing just like all the books, like the major books, like we're talking to players.
And every Dragon magazine article that supplemented that game. The one they're going to include, the copy they include in there, we'll call Halflings Hobbits.
Oh, that's awesome!
Because it is a direct print of a scan of the original box set. Which, if you were to go on eBay, I think they mentioned in the video, and were to buy these box sets, you know, they're going for like $800 because they're collectors, limited, rare things now.
Yeah.
But you'll be able to see, and then they've also got in there like Gary Gygax's original notes that were typed up on his typewriter prior to what it looked like prior to publication, and it's basically going through the whole history of how D&D went from the development of chainmail to a supplement that brought in fantasy elements to this war game.
Yeah.
So, like I said, the guy did a really good job of selling it to me. Somebody who's interested in the old school style.
But that's
and also to Nickelwart too. He is very excited for it.
But I mean, that's something that's awesome though. And I think you could do that with the older editions. Probably not like some of the ones that had more like modules that were attached to it. But it'd be really nice to get like the basics of some of these core editions come back out. And you could like not to, because I do hate this that they've done that with Magic a little bit. They've re-released old Magic cards and it's like downgraded some of the value. But maybe just in a simple book like that, you're not getting a box set. Because you want that original collector's item, obviously. So don't release it that way. But if you release it in this book venue of like, hey, look, this is everything from like first edition D&D to this point. It's something for you, and it's its own collector's item versus like trying to re-release the box set. But I think if you did things like that with first, second, third, and fourth edition, you'd actually have a market for players who would just want to go back in there. I know that there are a lot of people that talk about they love THAC0. They love that second edition version of the game. Like I said, I'm particular to 3.5. I thought it was great. 3 wasn't that great, but 3.5 was awesome.
It's more than that though. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but they brought up Greyhawk and like the Arduin Grimoire and other like books that were supplements that they're including in this book.
Yeah,
so it's much more than just a box set.
Yeah, it's all the supplements from that they produced up till the release of basically Advanced Dungeons and Dragons first edition. Everything prior to that.
The video and this release, the surprise drop, really got me excited for the first time in a while for a D&D release.
Yeah.
I'm going to buy that book. If they did that for second edition, first of all, it'd be like 3 books if they're doing 500 pages.
Yeah, and the only thing,
but
the only caveat, I will probably be buying this book. The only caveat is they've not released what the price point is.
You're probably looking at close to like, I guarantee $100. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like if I had to make a bet, it'd probably be close to $100.
Yeah.
I mean, because you got that much content in it, they're gonna want everything, and they know people are gonna buy it because they love that version of the game.
Yeah, but that's the one thing, because $50 price point like a regular book, definitely will be. I'd buy it day one it's released. $500. That's probably gonna wait till I find it on somebody's used discount page.
$500. I'll just go to Nigglewort and get the actual books.
Yeah. Just photocopy them right there.
Yeah.
I mean,
he still got them, so.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I don't think it's going to be. I don't see it pushing past like maybe 120.
Yeah.
But I do see it being about 100. Like,
you're thinking like reasonable corporate pricing. This is Hasbro. Hasbro, who their D&D board game that from what was it, Dragonlance or whatever it was,
which failed.
$25. They were selling for $100. So we'll see what happens.
Well, they got to make money somehow, and it's definitely not that. At this point, like I was so hopeful when we talked about them selling off D&D. I was like, well, fuck, we might actually get something good now. Like I was right there. My dreams were crushed. Damn you, Hasbro. I think that you could make a bunch of money. Like it depends upon how much the books cost to print, and that's really going to be what it is. Like just looking at it from a business standpoint, I don't see that book for 500 pages. Depending upon it, let's just say it's 500. I don't see it being that much to print. You're probably going to pay more for the hardback cover for it, and I think you'll be fine. I see it going about $100, maybe 120, and it's worth it at that point with all that kind of content you're getting in there. Because you think about it, you have 3 books plus a bunch of other stuff, like 3 major books: your Player's Handbook, your Monster Manual, DM's Guide. You got all that. That right there, when 5e came out, was about $120.
Yeah, and they're going to go into a lot, like the history and the letters between people, and contracts, and they're laying out the full development history of the original D&D game and how it came to be.
So is it half like an actual like handbook and half just like history?
A history book?
It's a history book that includes reprintings of the original.
You'll be able to play the first edition with this book while also seeing a lot of the history, and I think that's where that collector's edition of it's going to be worth it.
Yeah, and there's things in there like articles on how to play, what a typical game looks like. They're reprinting those articles as well, not just
if they get into a lot of the technical stuff and how TSR Steve Guy Gax and all those got into it, we might see Nigglewort's name in the book, and that's a scary thought.
I don't think he'd. I don't think Nigglewort needs that much going to his head. He's already kind of full headed on everything else. I think it's going to be a pretty good book, but there is a caveat. You were telling me about this, and I just want to choke people when I hear this crap.
The caveat is there's a section of the video where they turn right towards the end of the video, so some people may not get to this part, where they turn apologetic about some of the notes and stuff, where they're saying, where they come out and say that a lot of the stuff that was published in the original D&D would not pass their inclusivity readers today.
Yeah.
And don't live up to the now the example they use is very mild. They use the fact that the original fighter in the original D&D was called the Fighting Man. If you know this, if you've paid attention to the history, it comes from it was originally a fantasy supplement to an existing war game. In these existing war games, you were using like the French army or the English army in historical medieval battles. So yes, the fighters in those battles were typically men. The fantasy supplement, now you can have the women there because it's fantasy. You can do whatever you want.
But Shield Maidens,
Yeah.
Shield Maidens stayed behind more often than not.
But even then,
I'm done. I'm done with this, man.
Yeah.
I can't stand this. Well, it would offend. Okay, who cares? They wouldn't buy it. If it's going to offend somebody, they wouldn't buy it to begin with. That's the truth of the matter. Even if, like, don't put any disclaimers on it, don't put anything. Just put it out.
And
there
here's
will
the
be people
thing.
who want it. If they don't like it and they're offended by it, they weren't going to buy it. Whether you sit out here and come out like, we just want to apologize for it. No, they wouldn't buy it anyway.
Apologizing for history is putting a bias on it that doesn't need to be there. History needs to be presented as facts. And this is what D&D first edition was. You don't need to apologize.
Right. Now, if there is something in the that they're publishing a letter where they're dropping the N-bomb.
Yeah, like that. I am like, okay, hold on. We like, if you're out there and you're saying like, well, I hate insert race, nationality, whatever here, you're like, well, hold on there. We need to look at that.
Yeah,
but
you might want to do stuff then. But they, like I said, so unless there's something in there that we were just not aware of from, our own involvement with the old editions.
Which, plug, watch our video on our Orcs Races, link below.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, man.
linked in a lot of shit. Who do you expect to put those links in there?
Somebody who has produced their name, Mr. Producer.
Yeah, man. As if your job titles, I mean, my job title's right here, and your job title's down there. So
you get mad when I call you a pirate and accuse you of doing pirate things, though.
But that's bull, and you know it.
See, Bulg's a chef. Chefs don't post things. I'm a bard. Bards don't post. Pirates don't post.
What exactly do you do as a bard?
No. First off, what do either of them do when it comes to anything? I don't want to hear it. They're just along for the ride. They just show up on me ship and they're like, "Hi, we're here," and you're like,
I don't think I've heard a musical instrument.
The crew.
Okay,
you laugh right now.
You enjoy scurvy on the ship. I'll stop making you citrus salads.
That is true. I do like me citrus salads. But
anyway, sorry to derail.
No, you're good. It's one of those things. Like, I'm tired of these inclusive. And I don't want to get off on another tangent on this, but I mean, it comes with this title, man. I don't judge people in the past by what they did then. It was a product of the time. And we're seeing this a lot more with not just D&D. They did this with the new Tomb Raider game. They put a content warning on it. It's like when you watch anything on Disney Plus, and it's like, this could offend people. Nobody was thinking that until you put it there, and you're just like, bro, if we could have enjoyed the game and the book without that, nobody would have thought that. They're like, oh, I didn't realize I needed to be offended. You're just like, hey, Changao. I think it's going to be good, though. I think regardless of their stupid comments that they make when they say dumb things like that, I think it's going to be a great game or a great release. There are going to be people that want it because it's just a version of the game that, yeah, it's complex. It's going to be hard. People want the challenge. That's what games are there for. That's why we play Monopoly and all this, even though there's cheat codes to Monopoly and stuff. When I say cheat codes, there's a actual path of like, hey, if you just do this every time, you're going to win. And that's the truth of this game. They want that challenge. And there's something about these older editions that you don't get. Now that you kind of like dabbled into that 5th edition where you started playing and somebody's like, well, have you tried this? I think there are going to be people that want to go out and play it. So I can expect, like you said, with about $100 price, they're going to make some money off this. Wizards actually will make a decent amount of money off this.
A problem I've been thinking about while you guys have been talking about this is, you're going to have to convince these players to, go from the streamlined 5th edition, I roll my attack and I add my proficiency bonus, to THAC0. And I'll be honest, I have no interest in THAC0. I played Baldur's Gate 0. I like my D20 pluses.
I think it's, we're not really trying to target so much the new audience. I think it's I don't think it's targeting a new audience. I think it's actually targeting the older audience. I think it's trying to draw older players back in that have left the game for whatever reason. I don't know, maybe like this might offend people kind of reasons and they got tired of hearing that stuff. But it's trying to draw in the old players to come back and play the game because that was who was buying the books.
Well,
And so
I also think there may be some marketing strategy involved where recently there's something called the Old School Renaissance and a couple other publications that have been competing with D&D with the focus on being closer to the origins of D&D. And I think that part of this may be to have a Wizards product that is going to kind of shut some of that down and lead away from some of the claims some of those people are making.
are you saying that we're actually trying to give players what they want?
No.
Okay, I just want to make sure that's not what we're saying. Real
No,
quick,
they're absolutely not doing that. They are trying to shut down the competition and maintain a monopoly.
Yeah.
Because there are a couple comments in there about how no one else could produce because we're the only ones with the rights to this, blah, blah, blah.
I mean, if I just, don't call it THACO, but I make a THACO-like system,
which is what some of these
we'll call it
there is an actual product called Old School Renaissance. I'm not referring to that actual product. I'm referring to the style of product that is a old school D&D clone. But there is a very big market for those right now, and they have been gaining in popularity recently. And the fact that all of a sudden, when they're gaining in popularity, Wizards is putting out the end-all, be-all, comprehensive guide to old school.
Yeah.
There could be a little bit cynical way of looking at it, is that they're kind of trying to drive those people out of the market.
Maybe I do need to take that producer job and just go in there and go, yeah, we're not doing any of that. We're going to do this.
Well. So Pirate Captain just mentioned that they're trying to draw the new players. They're the old players back in.
That's yeah.
And I guess I hope Wizards isn't shooting itself in the foot with this, because for the last 10 years it's been 5th edition. If you're playing D&D, you're playing 5th edition. Well, now starting next year, the following, you're going to have your 2013 players, and you're going to have your 2013 tables. You're going to have your 2024 tables. You're going to have your 1 D&D tables that are trying to start run. You're going to have tables that do hybrids. So they're just they're further fracturing the streamlinedness of, hey, we're all following pretty much these rules.
Here's the thing, though. Those tables already existed.
Yeah.
The second ed, first ed tables have existed. All that's going to do is maybe a couple more first ed tables open up. And I can guarantee you a lot of the newer players are going to go, this isn't for me, and go back to 5th edition.
Yeah. They're going to do what they feel is comfortable. This isn't like this new edition that are coming out where it's kind of like a blend and they're trying to make it all work together. It's not like that at all. Like this is specifically trying to bring back in that older audience that's leaving to go to these other versions of the game.
I also suspect that once the new 5.5, 6th edition, 1 D&D, whatever you want to call it, actually comes out, you will hear a lot of this backwards compatible talk go away, because they're going to be focusing on selling the new edition,
the
new rules. And any book that comes out after that point, you're going to have to do some kind of conversions or some kind of changes to make it work with the old rules.
And they'll probably put the tables in the worst possible place in the book so that you have to constantly be flipping back and forth if you want to do the conversions, just to try and encourage you to play.
If they put them in the books at all, you may have to go online to get the convert. Like
that's also true.
A lot of the they'll say, if you want Dark Sun, for example, a lot of times they'll tell you, well, we don't need to publish Dark Sun again. You can take the Dark Sun setting and convert it to 5th edition. You don't see people doing that because that's a lot of work and a lot of effort. We know the reason that, again, is more political, because Dark Sun has some more of that content. They don't pass their sensitivity readers nowadays. But I think you'll start seeing more and more of that, where every new adventure and module that comes out, you're going to need the new books. And so more and more tables will slowly, and it's not going to happen the day it's released. It's 10 years into 5e. you don't see any 4th edition tables at most game shops anymore.
No.
Yeah, I guess the point I was trying to make was, up until this point, I want to play 5th edition. Barring house rules, most tables would run pretty much the same.
Yeah.
But now if you're trying, you're trying to find a group, okay, well, what system are you running? Do I like this system? Do I know this system?
Yeah.
It's just it's
But this
fracturing what's been.
But see, every table needs new players.
Yep.
There's always the pirate captain moved to Indiana. We have an open spot at my table. We're going to bring somebody new in to play at my table. You can no longer buy the books regularly or easily for the older editions. So new players are going to need to buy the new book. And eventually that table, everybody's going to be using the new books. That's just the way it's going to work.
That's the great thing about internet PDFs, though, is that information is there forever.
That's why there's still some tables that will play the old 2nd edition. I used to have it came out on a disc when 3rd edition came out. They put out the Core Rules 2.0 disc, which had all the rules for 2nd edition on a CD that was actually put out by TSR or Wizards or whoever it was that was publishing it at the time. And it had all the supplemental material. It was great because you had a complete system that wasn't changing because there was no new stuff coming out for it anymore. And we played with that system still up probably until 2000s, long after 3rd edition had come out. But our table, we had everything we needed for 2nd edition. We always played 2nd edition. But eventually, when I came to a new table, I had to go to a new system. Because I was the only one that had that old 2.0 disc.
People are going to go and play what they want. And the thing is, though, is even when you're at these new tables that are playing 5e, somebody will mention, hey, have you heard of Pathfinder? Have you heard of this system? Have you heard of that system? Have you heard of that game? Would you like to try it? And that's where they're going to venture out and stuff like that. And they're going to go over and try it, and they're going to dabble in, and they're like, I really like this. I'm going to go back. Or, hey, man, this is actually a lot more fun, more thought process or whatever. I think 5e, like I said, if I had to give a compliment to 5e ever, it was the fact that it made it very easy to come in, sit down, and play a game. And then you can kind of venture back to the older systems where there's more complex thought and there's more to it. Like I said, I love Pathfinder because there's more than just Arcana. It's, okay, what about Arcana are you good at? And that's what this book is actually going to bring to this. And like I said, the target audience really is the old players that they have lost. And they didn't help themselves in the video when they said, oh, well, it's going to offend people. Bro, that's not what people want to hear. The people you're trying to target with this book, that's not what they want to hear. Yeah, they already knew. They played the game. They loved the game. You telling them that what they like is offensive to somebody, that's my big takeaway from that. But yeah, people are going to buy this book. People are absolutely going to want to be a part of this.
Yep.
Good comeback, guys. I love it.
And then when we agree, what do you want us to do?
I don't know. Respond back like I'm not sitting here
something else, Mr. Producer and Pirate Captain, even maybe, because when older editions were happening, D&D didn't have such the monopolistic stranglehold that it has now in 5e. It was very common we'd show up to play D&D at the group we're always playing with, and somebody, hey, I got this book for Gamma World. Do you want to go play Gamma World instead this week? Because it was D&D, post-apocalyptic D&D from TSR, makers of D&D. And that was very common, where you would take a break from D&D and play in another completely different system. And those systems, some of them had perks and advantages over, like Pirate Captain likes the detail level. So like the system like Rollmaster, which went into that detail level, he might have liked that better, but it didn't survive to the modern day the way D&D in the especially with 5e kind of had such especially for the first 8 years or so, had such a monopoly on the role playing world that there are people out there you can't convince to try something else. You can't convince them to try
Felix.
Pathfinder. Yeah. Pirate Captain's best friend, Felix,
Look, you
has
know,
no interest in trying any of the others.
it was a nightmare to get him to play Season of Discovery World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
And he still is like, I don't like this part of it. I don't like the game. It's like,
Right.
Some people are just set in their way.
So Felix has a tendency to switch up his characters very often, as I believe has been discussed on this podcast.
He doesn't listen.
I have locked him into a character for the foreseeable future. His first character in my game. He is unable to change characters because his character is the avatar. So he is stuck with his character.
I like how you brilliantly put him in checkmate.
Also,
you got to make sure you send him this clip too.
Can we bring up the fact that the avatar is a drug lord?
Yeah, that seems about right.
Murdering drug lord.
Yeah, it seems about right. I think that's hilarious. I mean, when you have players that want to switch characters constantly because they don't like it, like they're more experimentation. That's the sign of somebody who's more into one shots than they really are into playing the game as a campaign overall. That they just want to sit down, have a quick adventure, and then walk away. And it's not a bad way to play the game by any means, but that's pretty good goddamn checkmate. I gotta give you that. You're like, all right, you want to switch characters? You're the main pet. You're the main guy there, hero.
Yeah.
Really can't walk away.
And sometimes the character that's envisioned in the player's head and what actually comes out on the table or what fits with the group. I mean, if you play that straight-laced paladin who obeys all the rules and will turn in the thief at a heartbeat, and you're in a murder hobo group, you may not be having as much fun.
Yeah.
If you just made yourself a murder hobo.
I think that's where some of the new system has done very bad about that, because it kind of like really streamlines you into that versus like the older systems. And this goes back to that argument of why people would probably want to go back and play this older edition, because you had a little bit more, I wouldn't say in first edition, but I know second and third had a little bit more leeway of what you could and really couldn't do. So you weren't felt like you were locked in to being the straight-laced paladin or something like that. Like you actually
you were more locked in the old editions.
I never felt that though. Like
you could not multi-class as a human.
I don't like the multi-class system, and that's okay. Like, but that's not what I'm talking about. Like, you know, I still would love to get away from the alignment system. I think the alignment system is just used as a tool for DMs to punish players. It really is. But
now that you were more locked into in the old
edition. And that's the truth about it. But you
actually in like first or second, you actually got it was dumb, but you got like a language that matched your alignment. So if you were a lawful good person, you could speak the language of lawful good, and it wouldn't be understood by somebody who was chaotic evil.
You're sitting there stabbing somebody as the rogue, as your lawful evil rogue or chaotic evil rogue, and the paladin's like telling you to stop, but he's only speaking lawful good. You're like, I can't hear you. I'm just stabbing this guy away.
Can't understand you, buddy. What's that? Stab more? That's what I understand.
Stab.
I mean, you can kind of do that these days, but yeah, it's nowhere near as much locked in as it used to be. I mean, we have Greeble at your table who had to use translators until recently. But the whole really 5th edition we could have gotten rid of alignment entirely. It does nothing.
I suspect that they intended to, because if you go through that book, there is very little reference to alignment. I think they intended to when they were doing their play testing, and then got scared about what the reaction of the old school players would have and put it back in.
I mean, I think alignment is good when you're like doing you're creating a character. Like what are my virtues? You know, like when you're trying to like do character design, but overall it ends up just becoming a tool to punish or keep players from actions. And you could make the argument that it does help them venture off. Like if you are a lawful good paladin, you're not really just going to go over there and steal gold from a beggar.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't make sense to do that, and it's kind of it'll help you there, but at the end of the day,
unless you know that beggar is using it to buy drugs,
but you
then
don't,
yes,
so you'd have to like there's so much that goes into it, and the alignment system, like I said, it feels more of a punishment to the players for like.
But it's also sometimes you need those rails to keep some of the more chaotic players from just destroying the entire.
I mean, they're going to do it regardless, and that's the truth of it.
But that's the thing. If you're a DM that needs all your players to be of a good alignment, and you're going to punish them for not behaving as good players, that gives that guidance to where
that should have been set out in the zero session, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Is there an alternative to the alignment system, or are they just scrapping it all together?
Yeah, smack. Don't do that shit.
Yeah, what he said. That's the truth of it. Like, hey man, no, you're a paladin. You're like Baldur's Gate did really good. It's really miserable to play a paladin in a group of people that have free will, because any little thing somebody else does affects you. And I thought that was hilarious. I mean, it was very sad, having to be the voice of reason in an entire party. 2 people.
Hey, Stinky Dink plays his role very well.
Fingers, Miss Fingers, but it's the rather truth of the matter, though. Like it's I think alignment could be good. Like I love good character design. Like when I was in college and I was in my screenwriting class, character design was like my favorite thing that I learned about. What are the virtues of this character? How does it go from here to here? Why do they do these things? Like the little intricacies, a whole like conspiracy theorist red wire thing of why this character does every little thing. It's awesome, the psychology of it. But when you go in and alignment either means nothing or it means everything is the issue I have. And it should mean something to you as a player. It really does. Like you should feel like if I'm a lawful, I get rid of chaotic neutral. As much as I love it, get rid of chaotic neutral, because everybody thinks they're chaotic neutral. They're not. They're either chaotic assholes or something else. They're very rarely are they chaotic neutral, where they are because chaotic neutral says, hey, I'm really just kind of doing things to kind of see what the reaction is. I'm not doing it neither good nor bad, and half the time I'm just doing things for myself. And that's the truth of most players who play chaotic neutral. They're trying to be Deadpool, and Deadpool's not chaotic neutral. He's honestly chaotic evil. And it's being a anti-hero. That's usually what you are. You're more like you're on the lines of that, chaotic evil or chaotic good. Get rid of chaotic neutral. That shouldn't be in alignment. True neutral. If you can play true neutral, I will give you a high five if I see you. That is the hardest alignment to ever truly play, is true neutral. It's because you got to be balanced out. You're either going to be lawful good, lawful evil, chaotic good, chaotic evil. Those are really the only 4 alignments. Everything outside of that, yeah, there's those gray zones, but it just doesn't. I've yet to see somebody who can truly play chaotic neutral to its epitome of what it's supposed to be.
Well, and that's the other thing. There's character development. You start out as a chaotic evil person, go on a redemption arc,
and that's too,
and develop into a good person who's repentant for your ways. You could die a lawful good person.
Well, I mean, and that's the truth of it too, of the alignment system. Like there's no way to really change, and some people just go hardcore, and then they have these moments in the game, like you're saying.
Worse than that, because the ways to change are normally things like curses and stuff that you have no control over and don't really fit. It's all of a sudden, boom, you were good, now you're evil.
Yeah.
You found the one ring and it's corrupting your soul. It's no choice on your part.
Well, I'll Pirate Captain, I'll give you a challenge.
Okay.
My current character in Loke's game is a cleric of pain. She likes inflicting pain. She likes pain being inflicted upon her. She does it in very mean, nasty ways, to the point where she will carve somebody up, resurrect them, keep carving them up just to teach them a lesson.
That's
but
chaotic.
She only targets bad people. She gives her money to good causes.
Okay. Still sounds.
Goddess
She
of
does
Pain
it
is
for-
a neutral evil goddess in my world, by the way.
Yeah, that just kind of more seems like either lawful evil or chaotic evil. Like you're still like just because you're giving money to good causes, but if you're still doing a bad person, that's just like that's pretty much like almost every politician ever like, hey, look, I'm doing good things for the community, but I'm over here doing bad things behind the scenes. Like that's the truth of that.
Well, it's not behind the scenes. She's very upfront about it.
Even then, it's still
It's always like, even if the party engages in something low key, she either doesn't engage at all, or she chastises them.
But that's
almost like a paladin role. But
yeah,
it's
I would say she's a lawful evil character.
Yeah,
who
I would
follows
say
a neutral evil goddess.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that's chaotic neutral. Just because you do good things, like you're trying to balance it out.
Not chaotic.
You're doing it for yourself though. That's the thing. Like chaotic neutral isn't to do it for yourself. It's honestly to keep the balance of the worlds. Essentially,
Yeah.
like
I define the good evil as selfless, selfish spectrum, and then the lawful chaotic to order and chaos.
yeah,
You know, random versus pattern. You have a definitely behavioral pattern. That's a lawful pattern. That is selfish.
yeah. I got to go with Loke on that one.
So lawful evil is where I would put your character.
Yeah,
I'm leaning more towards lawful neutral, but that she does evil things for good reasons.
but I mean, that's still
there is
evil.
some selfishness to it, but there's also a lot of selflessness to it. She likes to help people.
But that's it's still doing it for yourself, though. At the end of the day,
That-
so
that
you're
brings
saying
the-
it right
brings
there.
the
I'm doing
old-
it for myself.
What is good?
That brings
what is
the old
definition.
friends conundrum from the episode where
I hate
Joey
Friends
was on
so
the telethon, where Phoebe was trying to find a selfless good deed and she couldn't.
Yeah.
If she felt good about doing a good deed, that's selfish.
Right.
It's more along the lines of, why are you doing the good deed? Are you doing the good? It's like the streamer thing, like people who go out there and they videotape themselves handing money to somebody. You know, why didn't just hand the dude the money and walk away? Like that's the truth of that. But if you have to do it so you feel good, which is why people Facebook and stuff like that, so they get the clicks, they get the likes, they feel good about giving money instead of actually just giving money. That's the difference. Not to call out Mr. Beast on this, he goes obviously to Africa and builds the wells, and he does a video about it. Bro, just build the wells. Who gives a fuck whether you put a video about it? Like, now you're not really doing it for a good cause. Like, he is doing it for a good cause, but when you videotape it, it's more for clout, and that's where you're kind of at. And yet again, that gets away from the neutral. You're not doing it just to do it. You're doing it because you want your character to feel good.
I have my issues with Mr. Beast. But I do think that even if you're videoing, if you're putting out net good into the world, yeah, he could have done it without doing a video, but he's doing it, and if he makes a video as a byproduct of doing something good, I don't really care.
And,
He did something good for the world.
I mean,
this goes back to the
it's
weakness of the
more of an
alignment.
example. It's not
all
saying that he's.
definitions.
I'm sorry.
How you
what-
define good? How you define bad?
Mhm.
Because can you be good without being tied to your religious structure?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called a conscience.
Well,
Yeah.
like I said,
Well-
it wasn't so much to call out Mr. Beast. It was just to use him as an example because it's something that
Yeah,
we can all see.
I was piggybacking off your Mr. Beast example with I guess if I'm just happy that they're doing something good, even if they're making content out of it.
Right.
They're at least
But
something-
that's
better
not,
than the people who are running around being.
But that's not
douchebags
chaotic.
about it.
That's not chaotic neutral though. That's more chaotic good. That's, hey, look, I'm gonna go upset the balance of the world, but I'm gonna do good things. And that's the mindset. Like, to be true chaotic neutral, I truly is near impossible. And I think it's an alignment that needs to be just rid of the game altogether. You really can't. It's super hard to do. You literally have
chaotic neutral is Sour Patch Kids. First they're sour, then they're sweet. Why? There's no reason.
Well, because they were sour first, and then they wanted to be sweet. Like, that's the reason right there. Like, it's it's just miserable, and like trying to hold people to that alignment. And it's not that I don't enjoy. I enjoy the alignment system when it comes to the character creation part of it, from trying to figure out where I'm starting. Where I end is like Loke's saying, it's completely different. How did I get from point A to point B? Did I change along the way? Was there, we were in a town and I had the chance, I saw this, and this is where it gets really hard too, because then you have to disconnect your personal emotions from your character's emotions, because then you're getting kind of into that real world. Like, there's got to be a defining moment, and how that defining moment is activated, and how you respond to it, what the DM makes you do. There's so much to it that it's just hard to be. Like, I think like I said, when you create a character, that's when your alignment matters. Okay, what do? I wanted to be a lawful evil rogue. I'm stealing from the rich to give to the poor. But over time, I become lawful good, where I'm only stealing from. I'm not even stealing anymore, but I'm beating. Like, I'm taking on bandits that are raiding towns, and I'm taking the money that they've raided, and I'm giving it to the right people. Like, and how do you change over time? But it doesn't affect how you play the game. You're just something, not so much how you play.
You see, I do the opposite, where I use the alignment to kind of guide. I use it as a guide throughout the story, and what actions they take, and I very much use it. So
the way
it can be used, it can be used against you too, though, where like the famous "it's what my player would do."
I hate that fucking line.
Yes.
What my character would do. All right, cool. You know what your character would do too? Get smite by lightning.
Yeah, we all hate that line, but that's the thing. That's one of the problems with alignment too. Is like, I made this chaotic neutral character. To keep him chaotic neutral, he would have to do something chaotic now because he's been doing, or something evil now because he's been doing good stuff. So this is what my character would do, and it becomes an excuse rather than.
Yeah.
Right. So it's the way that I build characters. I give them a set of ideals and morals that they start the game with, and then as the game progresses, they either stick to those morals like glue, or let the experiences and quite literally experience and combat and interactions, all of that, shape them along through the campaign into whatever they're going to be. My alignment is merely a suggestion at best. Instead, it's more of,
if it's a suggestion,
letting my character grow. Exactly. That's
if
my
it's a
point.
suggestion, why is it there?
That's my point. 5e does not need it.
Yeah, I start all mine as centered as possible, true neutral as possible, and let them drift where they're going to drift.
Says the guy that's created characters absolutely to be dicks to other people.
Yes. They drift where they're going to drift. They drift to the dick side.
It's not that they drifted, it's that they start. It's like, oh, well, I'll just drift my way to, across the ocean. I'm just going to start on the other side of the ocean. Like, that's
so I'm guilty of using. I've used the "it's what my character would do" line, previously. It's something I try not to abuse because, like Loke just said, it is abusable and stigmatized. But I try to, in role playing, I try to follow through. I don't always do it successfully, but I try to operate within the bounds of what I had in mind for the character, and they do drift at times. But if it's something I think my character will do, then sometimes I might act on that.
I'll ask you. Do you think Arthur has ended up where he was going to be when you envisioned him?
Ooh, put on the spot.
I realized that there was not an antagonist for a certain player at the table, and I kind of
He's
quickly
doing you
hopped in-
proud,
I was
pirate
just kinda
captain.
naturally and quickly hopped into that role. So I'm trying to do something with Arthur. It's
Be cabin
going
boy, be
very
learning.
unsuccessfully. But I'm working on that. So I would say no, Arthur wasn't really where I had initially envisioned him. But I'm not
But
upset with where he is
right,
now.
right. That's the thing. Your character can grow into
Yeah.
a different type of personality from the start of the game to the rest of the game. You shouldn't be locked in based on alignment.
It really shouldn't. When you come up with your character, and to reiterate what I've said and what you all are saying, is character creation is where it matters now. Like, okay, where am I going? Where am I starting out at? What am I trying to do? Because maybe you're hanging out, and the paladin, it's a rogue and a paladin because it's the easiest example to use. And over time, the paladin's like, hey, bud, don't you think you should stop stealing from those guys? And he goes, all right, I won't steal from them. Then more later down the line, you're like, don't you think maybe you stop stealing altogether? Yeah, you know what? I ain't really stole a whole lot. I'll stop stealing altogether. And that's how you grow over time, and that's that growth that we're talking about.
Is there not mechanics in the DM's guide for how to handle alignment changes?
Not anymore. That I
In
can think
the
of.
fifth, I have to look.
Because I recall a
old-
time playing Baldur's Gate 1 where I pickpocketed from someone and my alignment dropped down one rank and I lost my
There's
paladin powers.
Yeah,
There's not in 5e,
in old editions, you were heavily penalized based on for alignment changes and not adhering to your alignment, and things like the spell protection from evil and good that we have in 5e, which protects you against specific categories of monsters. In the old editions, literally protected you of things of an alignment. So an evil human would be affected by spells like protection from evil, even though they were just a human. You don't have that anymore in the new edition. No matter how evil that human gets, that they will never.
In
be
the
subject to that
playtest material, have they indicated whether they're like just removing alignment or are they like going to double down on alignment?
I've seen no mention of alignment in the playtest material.
You'll be able to mix it with the old edition anyway, so you can use your alignment if you want, because it's stupid like that.
But in 5e, it's like almost a footnote. There is very little on alignment in 5e.
It's
I
more
will
of
say,
suggestions, if you will.
in Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, playing chaotic good was the easiest way because you could, if you messed up and your alignment dropped, just go to the one of the churches and donate some gold, and your alignment goes back up.
They're more
ways
like
the game-
guidelines.
Yeah, really. And that's why it's a useless system in this day and age. People are playing a more sophisticated game of D&D.
Or a less sophisticated. They're just murder hoboing everything.
True.
Yeah,
true.
that's really about it.
You walk in a shop and you rob the shopkeep, and they're like, "Wait a minute, you guys!"
I didn't rob this. I didn't rob the shopkeep. I just suggested that he give something to me that I would return it.
Didn't you have to create change a shopkeep into an undead lich type thing because I walked into a shop and shot him in the face because he had something we needed?
I still think it's hilarious because, like I said, in all reality, you can just suggest that you give me things.
Things like that is why some, especially newer DMs who aren't prepared to handle stuff like one of your players walking in and shooting the shopkeep in the face and just robbing the store of everything.
I only took the one thing we needed.
Yeah. But things like that is why the alignment system sometimes feels punishing, is because it was in there to stop that kind of thing from happening.
So I'd like to. We're nearing the end here, but I'd like to cram one more topic in here. I've had a grudge that I want to discuss on the podcast. we have
I make you walk
encountered-
the plank one time, and you want me to you want to hold it against me forever. I was bored and drunk.
Well, I'm curious your take on this, Pirate Captain. Should wild magic spells, should spells that are cast as a result of wild magic be counterspellable?
No.
I think they should.
Well, here's why. Can you really counterspell something you really know? Because most spells have most spells are verbal. Like they have some kind of component to it, like somatic, verbal or somatic. So you have to do either hand signs or something like that. And when you cast a wild magic spell, you aren't really
signs.
Yeah, you're not actually. It's more of a side effect of your first spell. You should be able to counterspell the first spell before somebody has a wild magic surge. But to counterspell the second part of it that you don't know is coming, because you don't know, and it's more of an after effect versus an actual effect.
It says in the table you cast fireball centered on yourself.
Right.
You have to, in order for the spell to cast.
So
you have to.
Okay,
Well,
so when you
They're
cast,
using existing rules. And it's not that you're casting fireball on yourself. They're using the existing rules for fireball to describe the damage and
the effect,
of the
the after effect of
without
it.
having to write a whole new set of rules for each and every line
They
item
could've-
on the table.
They could have put you explode for 8d6 damage in a 20-foot area, but it's everybody knows fireball because everybody walks into a room and casts fireball. That's
So when you get a wild magic surge, let's say I cast magic missile, and after I roll on the table and it says, okay, you gain a shield of abjuration, like let's just say a lesser shield of for 10 temporary hit points. I've cast magic missile. It's not me within that split second going and abjuration shield. Blah, blah, blah. No, it's more like magic missile, and then the effect surges through me.
It's
So
the
I
difference
noticed-
between a forced fumble and an interception.
Yeah.
Completely. They both result in a turnover.
But they're
Completely different.
I know this is gonna, not gonna sit well with everyone here, but Jeremy Crawford, the lead designer.
No. That guy's opinion doesn't matter on shit.
And that is why we've said he should be fired. More evidence.
I'm just saying, rules.
The fact that you're
rules as
using
written by the head designer.
By his rules, you only cast wild magic. What is it? If you roll a natural 20 after, there's all kind. You have to jump through so many hoops to even hit that wild magic. They are so afraid of wild magic by the 5e rules. there's so
and
many
people who
hoops.
play wild magic love it. They want it to happen.
bingo.
Yeah. I say every time you cast a spell as a wild mage, that wild magic's going off.
I don't think
Every
it's.
time.
I think that doesn't make it wild. That just makes it a guarantee, and that just takes the
But
fun out of it.
it-
I think.
Well,
I
no,
think it's
wild
a.
because what happens is different every time.
I even then. I think it's just a compounding. I think it should be compounding. Like
I
the
think
first.
it should go against your spellcasting ability. It should be a check.
Nah, I
Yeah,
think it
just
should be compounding. Like it just because you're building up more and more chaotic energies, and that's why it just compounds and stuff like that. And you're eventually going to get to the point like you do have to roll on it, and it doesn't go away. But yeah, just counterspelling the after effect because, like I said, it really is. You didn't intend. You're not saying. You're not saying magic missile, and then the verbal component just blurts out of you for fireball next. No, it's magic missile was the component, fireball was the after effect. Yeah. So you can counterspell the magic missile all day though.
You happen to throw a lighter that hit a stick of dynamite.
Yeah.
Counterspelling the lighter.
So
Dynamite's still there.
in Forgotten Realms terms, wizards use and pluck strands of the weave, use words and gestures and materials to make those spells go off without a hitch. Sorcerers, on the other hand, have weave in their bodies, and they just use
I
those
believe it's a
words
horsehair
and
weave too.
They use those words, they use those gestures to do the same thing as wizards, but because the weave is roiling around in them so chaotically, sometimes it doesn't come out the way it should, and you get a different effect. That's countering the initial spell, yes. If you don't counter that initial spell, that effect's going to go off. So sorry, Mr. Producer.
Yeah.
I think you're 3-1 on this one.
I said,
I have the head designer at my back, but
yeah, and
both of you can walk the plank. You
Again,
want a
this is
certificate
one
of
of those
achievement too.
This is one of the things where the rules in the player's handbook should be setting agnostic, because like Chef Bulg was just saying, in the Forgotten Realm setting, that explanation makes sense. In my setting, that would completely not work. That's not at all how magic works.
That's not how the Force works.
Exactly.
So, all right. It's time to wrap this up. Appreciate everybody who's tuned in for Chef Bulg and the Pirate Captain's Recipes for Everything, featuring Loke the Bard. He's more of a side character. We bring him in for every other episode. If you found any enjoyment out of this, do me a favor, like and subscribe to the channel, to the podcast, and keep it up. We will be releasing content. We actively release a lot of content. You can always catch us on opposite Fridays of this episode for a pop culture galley. I will not be at this next one because I'm going to go be playing G.I. Joe, and it's going to be so much fun. Yay. But like I said, follow us wherever you can. With that being said, say goodbye, Bulg.
Goodbye, Bulg.
Say goodbye, Luke.
Yeah.
Say goodbye, Mr. Producer.
later, guys.
As always, happy adventures. Yarr.
Help.
You've been listening to Chef Bulg and the Pirate Captain's Recipes for Everything, featuring Loke the Bard. Like, follow, subscribe, and share this podcast. You can also find them on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Just search for Chef Bulg and the Pirate Captain's Recipes for Everything. Questions, comments, and mutiny requests can be sent to bulgandpc@gmail.com. And as always, happy adventures.